The creator. That's it. 2 words. The richest man on the planet, sitting in a podcast chair, looking dead at the camera, and when asked who he looks up to the most, that's all he says. The creator.
Who do you look up to the most?
The creator.
What's your current position on God?
God is the creator.
You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something.
Now, that's Elon Musk. December 2025, and that clip sent the internet into a tailspin. But here's what most people don't realize. Elon isn't the only billionaire quietly moving toward faith. He's not even the most surprising one. I've got 8 billionaires, 8 of the wealthiest, most powerful people on earth, who are following Jesus. Some loudly, some in total secrecy. And number 3 on this list? I promise you, you won't see that one coming. This is the scripture. All right, let's get into it. Here's the thing about billionaires and faith. The world tells you a story. The richer someone gets, the less they need God. Success replaces prayer. Power replaces dependence. The penthouse is the new pew. And for a lot of people, that story makes sense. But something's been happening, quietly, over the last few years, that completely breaks that narrative. The most powerful people in tech, food, entertainment, and industry are doing things that make zero sense unless you take their faith seriously. One of them gave away his entire company. Another one put chaplains inside meat processing plants. Another one is lecturing on the Antichrist in San Francisco. And these aren't just cultural Christians slapping a fish sticker on the back of a Ferrari. Some of these people have restructured billion-dollar empires around the lordship of Jesus Christ. So I'm going to give you all 8, ranked from solid to absolutely stunning, and I promise the intensity only goes up from here. Stand with us in telling the truth about courage. Like the video, subscribe, and send this to one friend who needs a lift. Moment number 1. Cathy, Chick-fil-A, $10.5 billion. We start with the one you probably already know, but the details might surprise you. Cathy runs Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A's official corporate purpose statement says, and I quote, "We're here to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us." That's not from a church brochure. That's the operating charter of the highest revenue per store fast food chain in America. They close every Sunday, every single location, and they still generate more revenue in 6 days than most of their competitors do in 7. In 2012, when a reporter asked Dan about his stance on biblical family values, he said, "Guilty as charged. The culture lost its mind. People called for boycotts. Sales soared 12% to $4.6 billion that year." But here's the part people forget. Dan and his siblings signed a family covenant, a written promise, to be faithful to Christ's lordship in our lives. That's not a PR strategy. You don't sign a family covenant for brand positioning. That's conviction. Moment number 2. David Green. Hobby Lobby, $14 billion. And if you think that's bold, this one takes it further. David Green started Hobby Lobby in 1970 with a $600 loan. $600. Today, the company does over $8 billion a year in revenue, 50,000 employees, over 1,000 stores. The man is worth $14 billion. And in October of 2022, he gave it all away. Not some of it, all of it. He moved 100% of the voting stock of Hobby Lobby into a trust, wrote an op-ed in Fox News, and the title said everything. I chose God.
Yes, we have 100% of our voting stock into a trust, in which is managed by several family members that we trust, being stewards of what we have. And so that's how we've done it, to where we really don't own it.
His exact words were, "God was the true owner of my business. When I realized that I was just a steward, it was easy to give away my ownership." Easy. A $14 billion decision, and he calls it easy because the theology clicked. The money was never his. The company was never his. He just finally acted like it. And during COVID, when everything was collapsing, Green told an interviewer he literally crawled under his desk and cried out to God. Not called his CFO, not his lawyers. He got on his knees, under a desk, and prayed. That's not wealth gospel. That's a man who understands what the word steward actually means. Moment number 3. Philip Anschutz, AEG, Regal Cinemas, $11 billion plus. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this next one, almost nobody knows about. Philip Anschutz is worth over $11 billion. He owns the LA Kings, the LA Galaxy, AEG, the world's second largest live entertainment company, the Staples Center, Regal Cinemas, and the Washington Examiner. Fortune magazine compared him to J.P. Morgan. He's one of the most powerful men in American entertainment, and he's a devout evangelical Christian who's done exactly 3 formal interviews since 1979. 3 in over 40 years. The man drives himself, wears jeans and a Timex, and one biographer called him abnormally normal. You've heard of every venue and team he owns, but you've probably never heard of him. That's by design. In 2004, in one of those rare public remarks, Anschutz explained why he financed Walden Media, the company behind the Chronicles of Narnia and Amazing Grace. He said, "I decided to stop cursing the darkness." He funded explicitly Christian-themed movies for mass audiences. Not a sermon, not a tract. He used his billions to put Narnia in every theater in America. He also founded the Foundation for a Better Life. You've probably seen their Pass It On billboards promoting faith, integrity, and compassion. That's him. Working in the background. No press tour. No branding play. Just conviction. Moment number 4. Pat Gelsinger, former Intel CEO, approximately $1 billion plus. But nobody was ready for what happened with this next one. Pat Gelsinger was the youngest VP in Intel's history. He ran VMware. Then he became CEO of Intel, one of the most powerful positions in global tech, and he approached every single one of those roles with one question for the people around him. "May I pray for you?" That's what he'd ask. In meetings, in hallways, at conferences, he prayed with more than 10,000 executives over the course of his career. 10,000. In Silicon Valley, the most secular zip codes in America. When he was running VMware, 13,000 employees, he said, "That's the church God has given me to be a minister to." Not a metaphor, he meant it. He co-founded a ministry called Transforming the Bay with Christ, with the stated goal of bringing 1 million people to faith in the Bay Area. Then in December 2024, Intel's board forced him out after a brutal stretch, 15,000 layoffs, the stock cratering. And what did Gelsinger do? He posted Proverbs 4:25-26 on social media and called for 24 hours of prayer and fasting. Not for himself, for the employees Intel had just laid off. And by March of 2025, he'd taken the executive chair of Glue, a faith-based AI platform serving over 140,000 church leaders. His stated mission? To hasten the coming of Christ's return through technology. At a speech at Colorado Christian University, he said, "Christians in Gutenberg's time embraced that great invention of the day to literally change humanity. We must do the same today." That's not a man who pivoted to faith after losing his job. That's a man who's been building toward this for 40 years. All right, quick pause. If you're with me this far, I want to hear from you. Drop the name of the billionaire who's surprised you the most so far in the comments. Just the name. I want to see who's catching people off guard. And if you love what this channel is about, telling the real stories of faith that no one else covers, I humbly ask you to like the video, share it, and drop a comment to help boost this in the algorithm. Because the next 3 are where this video goes from inspiring to absolutely wild. Moment number 5. Peter Thiel, PayPal, Palantir, $11 billion plus. Okay, this is the one. Peter Thiel co-founded PayPal. He co-founded Palantir. He was the first outside investor in Facebook. He's a libertarian, he lives in San Francisco, and he's openly gay. He is, on paper, the absolute last person you'd expect to profess faith in Jesus Christ. And he doesn't just profess it casually. When asked directly, point blank, what he means when he says Christianity is true, Thiel said, "I believe in the resurrection of Christ."
Probably a little bit uncomfortable about it is that it seems to lead to these incredible returns to scale. I thought San Francisco had at least, committed suicide.
The bodily resurrection of Christ. I want you to sit with that for a second. An $11 billion tech titan in the epicenter of secular culture, not saying, "I'm spiritual," or "I like the teachings." He's saying, the body of Jesus Christ left that tomb, physically. He believes in the bodily resurrection. Thiel studied under René Girard, one of the most important Christian philosophers of the 20th century, at Stanford. Christianity isn't a side interest for him. He says it's the prism with which I look at the whole world. Every company he's named is pulled from Lord of the Rings, Palantir, Mithril, a work written by a devout Catholic. But here's where it gets even more intense. In May of 2024, Thiel gave a 55-minute fireside chat at Y Combinator president Gary Tan's home, which, by the way, is a converted church, on the meaning and significance of Jesus' death and resurrection, to 200 Silicon Valley executives. One attendee said, "I did not know Peter Thiel was a Christian. I didn't know Christianity could sound like that. And then in the fall of 2025, Thiel led a 4-part lecture series on the Antichrist at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco. Sold out, off the record. Peter Thiel, lecturing on eschatology in one of the most progressive cities on Earth. Now look, I know some of you are uncomfortable right now. A gay billionaire professing belief in the bodily resurrection of Jesus. That doesn't fit neatly into anyone's box, and that's the point. I'm not the judge of a man's heart. His profession of faith is his profession of faith. And the fruit of that, the lectures, the 55-minute talk on the cross, the funding of ministries, that's between him and God. But you can't deny, something real is happening here. Moment number 6. John Tyson. Tyson Foods, $3.2 billion plus. And if you think that's unexpected, wait until you hear how one billionaire brought faith into America's meat processing plants. John Tyson is the chairman of Tyson Foods. His company processes 1 in 5 pounds of chicken, beef, and pork eaten in America. 139,000 employees, massive industrial facilities. And inside those facilities, Tyson installed something nobody in corporate America expected: chaplains. Not productivity coaches, not wellness consultants, chaplains. Prayer services available to workers on the factory floor. A corporate chaplaincy program serving tens of thousands of blue-collar employees across the country. That's faith at scale. That's not writing a check to a church. That's restructuring a Fortune 500 operation around the idea that every worker in the building has a soul worth caring for. Moments number 7. Elon Musk. God is the creator. All right, this is the one I've been building toward. And I need to set this up properly because the destination doesn't hit unless you understand the journey. 2021. Elon Musk sits down with the Babylon Bee, a Christian satire site, and they ask him, half joking, to accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior. His response? If Jesus is saving people, I won't stand in his way. Sure, I'll be saved, why not? He's smiling, it's light. But something is there. Something cracks open.
Before you could find it. But it was there. We had it there for you. So.
Well, thanks. I guess that's a compliment, I think.
Then 2022. Elon posts on X. Jesus taught love, kindness, and forgiveness. I used to think that turning the other cheek was weak and foolish, but I was the fool for not appreciating its profound wisdom. That's not a joke. That's reflection. July 2024. Jordan Peterson interview. 18 million views. Elon says, I do believe that the teachings of Jesus are good and wise. I'm a big believer in the principles of Christianity. He calls himself a cultural Christian.
Happiness or meaning?
Well,
Which would you pick?
I'm actually a big believer in the principles of Christianity. I think they're very good.
October 2024. Tucker Carlson. I'm culturally Christian. I grew up Christian. I was Anglican, baptized, Sunday school. January 2025. He tells Alice Vital, I'm open to the idea of God. You see the trajectory? Sure, I'll be saved. To I was the fool. To cultural Christian. To I'm open to the idea of God. Each step inching closer. Each statement more serious than the last. And then comes December 2025. Katie Miller podcast. And she asks him one question. 3 years ago, this man said he was okay with going to hell. 2 years ago, he called himself a cultural Christian. 1 year ago, he told Jordan Peterson he believed in the principles of Jesus. And then Katie Miller asks, who do you look up to the most? God is the creator. 4 words from the richest man alive. And then just this week, February 2026, he posted 5 more. I agree with the teachings of Jesus. 4 million views. And climbing. Now, I want to be careful here, because this channel doesn't do what some channels do. I'm not going to tell you Elon Musk is saved. I'm not going to tell you he's a born-again Christian. I don't know his heart. That's God's territory. What I can tell you is this: the trajectory is real. The statements are escalating. And when a man with more influence than almost anyone on earth starts publicly crediting the Creator and affirming the wisdom of Jesus, whether he's fully there yet or not, that's not nothing. That's the ground shifting.